Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. Thank you for joining us. Just to make you all aware, the session is going to be recorded. If I could just make sure that everybody is muted so any background noise is eliminated during the webinar, that would be greatly appreciated. I'd like to introduce today's presenters. My name is Kate Campbell. I'm the Client Engagement Specialist at Invorg. My role includes client interactions from the initial meeting right through to and including project execution and ongoing building relationships with our clients. My primary focus is on the engagement and customer relations side of things. Next, I bring myself to introduce you to Marco. Over the past 26 years, Marco Campana has worked in some form of sector communications, from frontline client service to the firstsettlement.org content coordinator, creating and managing the Settlement at Work site, launching Ocasi's Learn at Work online learning, and for sector workers. Participating in a number of efforts to create a sector community of practice, leading digital social media strategy at Maytree, and most recently as a consultant helping agencies harness technology in client service delivery. Joseph Edwards. Joseph Edward is a results-oriented, award-winning visionary leader with a passion for community. He founded Invorg, focusing on client-centric service delivery platforms for innovating local organizations, not-for-profits, home and community support organizations, as well as small to medium-sized businesses. Joseph holds a Chief Information Officer certificate from Carnegie Mellon and from the U.S. General Services Administration. He is an IT veteran with over 20 years of leadership in technology, including 4 years as a CTO for the City of London. Once again, for those of you just joining, kindly mute yourselves so the background noise is not present when the recording is going on. Just to recap, my name is Kate Campbell, and secondary, we are recording this session. So please, if possible, all stay muted. I will try and catch as they attend, attendees continue to join. I will try to make sure that those are monitored and muted. I'll be monitoring the chat box, so please type your questions into the chat box as they should arise. We will address all questions during our question period at the end of the call. I appreciate your time that you've taken to spend with us, and now I'm going to turn over the presentation to Joseph Edward, the CEO of Invorg. Joseph, are you there?
Thank you all. Thank you, Kate, for this introduction. Thank you all for joining the webinar. And this is a very important webinar in today's digital world. We will be talking about digital transformation, especially digital transformation in settlement services sector. The agenda for this hour is going to be, you have already had welcome and introductions by Kate Campbell. Then I'll be speaking on digital transformation. What is digital transformation? Why is it important? How it's being implemented? And some real world examples where digital transformation has transformed the business and for business models. And then Marco will be continuing with his presentation talking about digital transformation, especially in the settlement services sector. We will be giving enough time for question and answers. At the end of the presentation, Kate will be sharing some of her remarks as a closing remarks. Kate, can I have a control of the screens? Can you pass me the controls, Kate?
I have already done that.
Okay, for some reason it's not moving. Just okay, now it's moving. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, no, just 1 second. It's just okay. Just 1 second. Okay. All right. Okay. So here's Kate, who has controls? Am I having a control or you having
You
a
have
control?
control. I do not have control.
Okay. Okay, just 1 second, excuses for a minute. I don't know why it's not controlled. Can you share the screen? I'll take over the screen. I don't know, the control is not working well for me. Can you pick me a presenter?
Absolutely. There you are.
Okay, thank you. I'll just bear with me for a minute. I'll just make sure that I have the slide. Okay, here's a brief food for thought. This is from Jeff Bezos, who is the CEO and the founder of Amazon. Here he says, when the world changes around you and when it changes against you, what used to be a tailwind is now a headwind. You have to lean into that and figure out what to do because complaining is not a strategy. I think the world is changing so rapidly because of the digital transformation. The impact on digital in everything we do, it is making the world upside down. So the organizations as well as individuals have to learn to adapt to this emerging and ever-changing situation due to digital transformation and digital disruptions. So these are the following webinar objectives. First of all, we will be sharing information about the essence and the importance of digital transformation in the era of digitally connected world, sharing some best practices for beginning and implementing a digital transformation journey in organizations such as yours, sharing a real-world examples where digital transformation fueled organizational transformation and end-to-end client experience. Finally, Marco will be sharing the importance and approaches for implementing a digital transformation journey in settlement services organization. Here's a brief agenda. We have already completed the welcome and introductions. I will be talking about digital transformation. What is digital transformation? Why is it important? How it is being implemented? Then I will be also sharing two real-world examples. Finally, Marco will be sharing the digital transformation in settlement services, and then we will opening up for question and answers. And finally, we will be closing the webinar with closing remarks from Kate. So the question we need to ask, what is the future of business? Regardless of what type of business we are in, whether we are in a profit-based business or not profit-based business, whether we are a government or whether we are a settlement services, we are all conducting business. We are all conducting some kind of a business functions. So what is the future of business? Is changing the way business create experience. That is the future of business. That means delivering end-to-end, enlightening, enriching, and empowering human experience. This is the future of business. Unless we create, unless we deliver an enriching experience, the businesses will not last for much longer. For example, if you look at these names of companies whom you are familiar with, Amazon, Airbnb, Uber, Apple, Tesla, and Netflix. These are some of the many recent examples where these companies have disrupted the industry by providing a true human experience. If you look at Amazon, Amazon delivers goods to homes as well as to businesses. The way they deliver the goods from end to end, from the ordering until it's get delivered, it's all about the experience they are creating to the customer. If you look at the Airbnb is one of the largest accommodations, vacation accommodations company in the world. And they don't have a single property on their own, but they provide largest vacation accommodations or short-term or long-term stay by using digital. Likewise, Uber, Apple, Tesla, and Netflix, they are transformed and disrupted the industry by using digital. So that the future of business, regardless of what you do, it's going to be how you create the experience to the clients. For to make that happen, the business must become a digital. They should become a digital. In the era of the connected world, alignment of digital with business is no longer enough. We IT people used to talk about aligning IT with digital, aligning IT with digital with business, but that's no longer valid. In the new era, the business must transform into a digital business. Every business transform into a digital business. And the digital transformation must be at the heart of every organization. This is the only way organizations could survive in this digitally connected world. Otherwise, the organizations which fails to embrace this new model, new business, new capability, will soon be left out from their business, and they will be going out of business. So that's a very important message. All organizations must listen, must realize the importance of digital transformation for their success. So what is digital transformation? People have different answers. There is no one definition which clearly articulates all aspects of digital transformation. People, companies takes different view of digital transformation. So if you look at sales, talks about digital transformation as modifying existing business processes, the culture, the customer experience. Whereas iScoop talks about organizational activities, transforming activities, processes, competencies, and models. Where George Westman from MIT talks about digital transformation is about critical thinking. So if the digital transformation at the core, it's about transforming the business processes, transforming the business models, transforming the governance, transforming the client experience. That is all about digital transformation. Digital transformation is not about technology. It is not about technology. It is about business. It is about how we transform the experience of every person who is part of the organization, whether they are staff, volunteers, or clients, how we could improve the experience. That's all about digital transformation. So as Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So it is very important, if we are going to start embarking on a digital transformation, you need to start thinking very radically. The old way of thinking, traditional thinking, will not be able to deliver extraordinary results. It won't deliver the results you will be expecting from digital transformation. So that digital transformation to be successful, you need to be thinking outside the box, you need to be creative, you need to be thinking very radically how you could create that experience to each and every person who touches your products or services. So why is the digital transformation critical? Why is it critical? There are three core facts outlines the critical nature of digital transformation. The first one is called survival. The digital transformation, in order for you to survive, if one of the organizations to survive, they need to be transforming. Organizations failing to transform digitally will go out of business very soon. So as Moses Nathan Mohanji said, we are no longer talking about digital transformation becoming part of our lives. We are talking about either we have to jump in and play along, or we get out of the business. The other two aspects of digital transformation is the growth and transformation of the business. So the digital transformation is very critical for three reasons: survival, growth, and transformation. So organizations failing to recognize this importance of critical transformation will be left out, or in many cases, they will go out of business. So it doesn't matter whether you are in a settlement services, whether you are in a health services, whether you are in a community support services, the digital transformation is the must for every organization. So continuing with the same theme of why it is critical. In our experience working with many organizations of many types, what we find, these organizations are in a chaotic stage. This chaotic stage is not because of they have done something wrong. It is because of the way the technology and the business developed, how business brought in technology, how businesses optimize technology, align technology, all those things cause the businesses of today into a chaotic stage. For example, there are organizations who have processes which are not optimized. They don't have a centralized database system. They have many databases. Their data quality is very poor. So you cannot really trust the data they get. They have many systems which are unintegrated, and there are many data sources. Their security is very lax. They send out very personally identifiable information through emails and other means. So there's a lack of digital security. And too many systems and data sources. There are too many systems. And too many redundant and duplicate activities are taking place in this organization. Same data is entered multiple times. And then they spend a lot of time taking the data and re-entering into the government systems or any other outside reporting system. And then there are unstandardized intake tools and processes. There is no one standard tool to do the intake or the process. All these things have created the chaotic state we are in, organizations are in. So that state is really giving a lower ROI, return on investment, no single source of truth, very poor experience for clients, and clients have to retell their story many times, high risk exposure. That means these organizations are at risk of security hacking, the identification, stealing of identification by thieves, digital thieves. So all those things, and lack of accountability, because these organizations often focus on producing financial statements and income statements or balance sheets and all those things, which is very, very important. We are not saying that is not important. What is more important is showing to the donors, showing to the government how every dollar spent is making a difference in someone's life. That is the true accountability. The true accountability is we showing every dollar spent, it's making a difference, how it is making a difference in someone's life. That's the level of accountability is not given. And lack of transparency, lack of growth. They are in a survival mode. Always they are in a survival mode because they have to rely on donors and government funding all the time. As soon as that gets slashed, then they are in trouble in terms of delivering the services. Because organizations like donors and governments, they are always looking to get more value for their investment. Then there's an operational inefficiency, low morale of staff and volunteers, and some of the decisions are very, very poor decisions because they don't have a good data, they don't have a good facts to make informed decisions. All these things are causing this chaotic state. Whereas through digital transformation, you could completely transform from chaotic stage to orderly state. Or in orderly state, you will have everything you are seeing in this screen in green. You have a standardized intake tools and processes, optimized aligned processes, centralized database, high data quality, integrated system, high level of security, fewer systems, and your reduction in redundant and duplicate activities. Here are some of the reasons why this is important. First and foremost is customer experience, operational processes, and business model. So this is you will get these slides after this presentation, so you can go through them in more detail. So now the question comes down to how do we implement a digital transformation? Where do we begin? How do we start? This is a big question every organization is struggling with. How much money is going to cost? How do we start the digital transformation? My answer is very simple. The 1,000 miles journey starts with a single step. So you don't have to boil the ocean you have to take small steps towards a transformational state. But the important thing is you do the digital transformation in a right way. So as this quote said, when digital transformation is done right, it is like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. When done wrong, all you have is a really fast caterpillar. So it is very important. Organizations who want to embark on a digital transformation, they need to realize the digital transformation is not an event. It is a journey. It is a process. It takes time. You have to involve many people. So it is not something you can bring it in and turn the switch on to be transformed. It takes a long time to really transform an organization using digital in order to do it right. So here is a good example of organizations losing a lot of money in digital transformation. The main reason why they are losing money, because they are not implementing in the right way. According to this study, 1.3 trillion was spent on digital transformation last year. But so it was in 2018. In 2018, 1.3 trillion. And out of that, 900 billion went to waste. Very good example, because we are all we are Canadians, and we all heard about the Phoenix payroll system, which was brought out by our federal government, former federal government, to transform the payroll, the government, public servants' payroll into the public sector. And you all know what has happened. After spending $6 billion, $6 billion of taxpayers' money, this transformation of payroll, it's completely failed. Now government is going to dismantle that solution, and they are looking for a new solution. So the reason why it is failed, because this transformation was not done in a proper way. So if you are taking a digital transformation journey in your organization, making sure it is done in a proper manner. It's not an event. It takes time. It has to be done in a proper way. So here are some of the challenges facing a digital transformation. The first and foremost is the company culture. The company culture, when you have a culture, people say, I have done this over the 20 years the same way. Why do I have to change it? Or the other issue is the silo mentality. The programs, the areas, the divisions, departments, they are very siloed and they don't work together. And lack of resources, whether it's the people, technology, funding, all those things. And then lack of understanding of behavior or impact of new connected customer. Our customers now have a better technology than organizations. If you look at your organizations, your technology may be outdated by 20 years or 15 to 20 years. But your customers, most of the customers have a better technology than ever before. So now we are trying to serve our customer who has more knowledge about technology. They have a better tools with outdated tools and processes. So you can realize what kind of an experience your organization will create to these customers or to these clients. Unless the organizations do something very soon, this poor experience will continue to become unmanageable, and that will become a huge issue for most organizations' demise. So here are the models of digital transformation. There are 4 models: fashionist, beginners, digital masters, and conservatives. The fashionist, they don't have a vision. They don't have an underdeveloped coordination. They don't have a digital culture. That's a fashionist. Right? And then on the other side, digital masters, they will have a digital vision. They will have a good governance across silos. And they will have a digital initiative generating business value, not technical value, generating business value. And they will have a level culture. But it is very important to think, you cannot go to a beginner to digital master overnight. It takes time. It will take time. It will have to be systematic. It has to be strategic, it has to be continuous, and it has to be governed well to go from beginners to the digital masters level. So in order for you to implement a digital transformation, the first and foremost, you need to start with a vision. What is your digital transformation vision? What do you like to achieve? What's your vision for digital transformation? Once you have the digital transformation vision, then you can create a strategy, and then you have to create metrics. How are you going to measure at the end of the day your digital transformation is successful? Then you need to have a governance structure. Who is going to govern this whole digital transformation process? Then you need to assign specific roles and responsibilities to organizations and people. You need to understand what kind of information you have to collect, what kind of a process is already happening, what kind of process has to be improved. Finally, you need to talk about technology. Often organizations, when they talk about digital transformation, they always talk about technology first. They don't talk about anything else. They just talk about technology. These organizations, I'll tell you 100%, your digital transformation will be a total failure. If you take that approach, your digital transformation will be a total failure. I'm not saying this one. You can see at the very bottom. This model is adapted from Gartner. Gartner is a world leading IT research organization. They did a research and they found out organizations which are successful, they followed this model. Organizations which are not successful, they didn't follow this model. So if you are going to use digital transformation, make sure you don't put the technology first. Make sure you understand the organization, the goals and objectives, the outcomes, what kind of outcomes you would like to deliver. Look at the process, but look at the data, and then you come up with the technology. But it has to be iterative, it has to be sequential, it has to be done on a step-by-step manner, not like just everything in one day. So when we do with digital transformation, we always start with the organizational mission and vision. What is this organization is doing? Who are their stakeholders? What services they are providing? What is the objective? What are the outcomes they are trying to achieve? From there, we establish a digital transformation vision. So based on the organizational vision and mission, we establish a digital transformation vision. That digital transformation vision it's turned into a strategy and a plan, and then we execute it. And that delivers outcome. So when we deliver these digital transformation, we always use our E6 human experience engine framework. That is engage, enlighten, evaluate, enable, enrich, and empower. Because this is a way our organization delivers digital transformation. And that's why we have been very successful in delivering digital transformation in many organizations. So these are the 6 stages of digital transformation: business as usual, present and active. Most of the organizations might be in 1 or 2. So you have to try to move from where you are to the next stage. It will take time. It might take 2 years. It might take 3 years. It might take much longer. A recent example, we were working with one of the organizations. They wanted to transform their organization, digital transformation. So we have submitted a project, and like what we do, we told them it's going to take 2 to 3 years. And their question was, because they are in a very bad shape, they wanted to expedite this process, and they were willing to pay more money. My answer to them is no, because that's not the way digital transformation works. Digital transformation, no matter how much money you spend, digital transformation takes time, because you need to bring in the people who are part of this process, whether they are volunteers, whether they are clients, whether they are staff. They need to be part of the digital transformation. Unless you bring them along, the digital transformation will not be successful. So those things takes time. So don't ever, if any company comes and say they can transform your business overnight, don't ever fall prey to that one, because that's not going to be successful. So here are some world stories. Here is a good one example. We have implemented digital transformation in a home and community support sector. There was a nun who was 92 years old. Here, she lived alone, and she needed a lot of service. So she has to go to many organizations. She has to go and retell her story again and again and again to get the services she needs. For her, every door is not the right door. Every door is the new door for her. So she has to retell the story. That created a poor client caregiver experience. no optimal health outcomes, high cost to our health system, demoralized staff, volunteers, clients, and caregivers. Through digital transformation, we transform that service sector into this new model. In the new model, every door is the right door. So the client could go to any of the organization and they can tell the story once, and they will be able to, they will get the service in a more efficient manner. And it created an end-to-end human experience. It reduces the cost to the health system. So that's what the digital transformation. The digital transformation is not about technology. The digital transformation is about business processes that value the experience you are going to bring into the organization. Here's another example. We have implemented a digital transformation in a newcomers in settlement services organization. This platform transformed the way the newcomers were served, and they were welcomed and served over the period of a year, from 6 months to a year or more than that. They had many databases, many spreadsheets. Data is entered in multiple places. The customers have to retell the story again and again and again, and all those things. Through digital transformation, we have completely transformed that experience. Through that, now you can see every door is the right door. The client has to tell the story only once. True end-to-end human experience. We broke the silos. We improved the collaboration among departments. We improved the communication. We empowered the staff and volunteers. We transformed the data into a good quality data. We eliminated the databases into one centralized database. We given access to the information to everybody from anywhere, anytime, using any device. Now the security is highly strengthened. Their productivity has increased, service quality has improved, overall money is saved. So this is what the digital transformation is about. Digital transformation is no longer about technology, it is about business. So just keep in mind, when you do digital transformation, it has to be about business, it is not about technology. But the digital transformation, it's very critical. If you don't do it now, it will be too late to start this digital transformation, because the digital disruption is taking every organization by storm. So that means you need to start your digital transformation sooner than later, so that you will be able to improve the client experience, the processes, and all those things in a systematic manner. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Marco, who will be talking about digital transformation in the settlement services. So I will be making Marco as a presenter. Let's see.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Joseph, for that introduction. I'm going to go fairly quickly through my piece because I want to make sure we have time for some conversation and discussion, because I know there's probably lots of interest around here. So what I'm going to talk about really quickly is looking at digital transformation around client service in the sector. So some pretty granular stuff, but I want to reiterate some of what Joseph talked about. Is when we're talking about digital service in this case, we're still talking about client service, right? Technology isn't the conversation we should be having. The language we may use might be different online, but the principles are the same. So you're still serving clients, you're still serving newcomers to help them integrate and settle in their communities. It's really important that we look at how we connect and integrate our work so that your online work is, especially initially, an expression of your offline work or your in-person work. They can be very different, but they can also be very, very aligned, what some people talk about as blended services. And again, it's really important that it's not about the technology, it's about service. So don't let technology become the conversation. Don't settle for the bling or the bells and whistles, but talk about it from what it can do for you, your workers, your staff, and for your clients. Also be prepared to evolve over time. Joseph mentioned a potential 3 to 5 year window in some digital transformation. Your experiences will evolve, the technology will evolve. Ideally, you're working with technology that's evolving with the times, but new technologies and new approaches can come out at any given time. So having a solid strategic foundation is really important, because what you do around technology and the tactics that you use, it may change and likely will change over time. And the other piece around this is also to not just innovate yourselves, but to participate. So understand your clients, what the technologies are that they're using, and join them and engage them and use technology that's already working for them. In terms of the lay of the land, this is a really kind of chaotic image I've been working with to look at the future of settlement work. Technology is just one piece of what you're looking at in your ecosystem. You're dealing with funders and changing funders and new funder requirements, different kinds of funders, competitors and disruptors that are coming into the field. Everyone wants to be the next, Uber in some field. So a new upstart startups who think they can do settlement work better than ever before. Media is part of your ecosystem. Clients, obviously, service competencies, service standards. These are things our sector is still grappling with and changing and evolving around, and that all has an impact on how you do your work. Add a layer of technology and digital transformation to service standards and service competencies, and it gets that much more complex. Similarly, with politics and leadership, if things change, they have an impact on your funding, they have an impact on your ability to work with vulnerable populations if they become more vulnerable because of shifts in politics or policy, and that has an impact on how you do your work. And similarly in your community, as demographics change, as city processes change, as well as city priorities, they all have an impact. If we delve into just one, into technology, the landscape is overwhelming in some cases. So we're looking right now at a future of technology that's mobile first. It's not just computers, but it's tablets, smartphones, as well as desktops and laptops. We're looking at social media and messaging apps in an environment where we're still struggling with the security, privacy, and confidentiality implications of using all of these tools. We're trying to do better and more efficient, as well as more complex data and client tracking, so we can really understand our client needs and work them towards the outcomes that they want and need to become better settled in their community. And then there's all of the different technologies, whether it's websites or membership portals, bulletin boards, video, lots of different tactics and channels that you could be using. So, I think at a glance for not just the settlement sector, but for most nonprofit sectors, the technology itself, the landscape is pretty overwhelming. So if we look at the state of digital in our sector now, this is from a survey 2 years ago, a national survey. 85% of respondents said that digital capacity and digital strategy is essential or important for their ability to do their work. But only 40% have a digital strategy, right? And that's not, this is to position where you might be as an organization, and it's not atypical from other sectors. Joseph mentioned the 6 stages of digital transformation, and I would say, looking at our sector, most agencies are still at the present and active stage where there's some experimentation happening, there's pockets of innovation or iteration happening in an organization, but they're really siloed in a lot of cases, and there's not a lot of knowledge sharing and things like that. Some organizations have formalized it, so they've experimented, they've evaluated, and they've formalized the use of certain technologies, and perhaps across the organization, but it's codified, it's built in, it's part of everyone's onboarding and training. And a few have moved into the strategic phase of technology and digital transformation. So I think we're still very much as a sector on the pathway. Certainly there are some of you on this webinar who may be further ahead or further behind, but there's much we can learn from each other and from others. And one of the reasons why I think there's this sense of we all feel behind in some of these is because of what I will call the digital iceberg. So in another survey, we looked at digital messaging very specifically. So WhatsApp, texting, Facebook Messenger, the kind of stuff that you're usually doing on your smartphone. And overwhelmingly, managers don't feel at all equipped to make technology decisions, and certainly not to manage staff who are using technology with their clients. Now, interestingly, when we asked about digital messaging, clients overwhelmingly felt that they had the skills to do it. And that really came down to, can you turn on a phone and send a message to someone, download an app and send a WhatsApp message? Because when we started to go beneath the surface, or below the surface of the iceberg, and looked at organizational standards, funder understanding of this, the use of personal devices, boundary issues with clients, the reality is that those frontline workers started to become less certain about their ability to use these technologies in their service work. Even though they knew it improved efficiency and effectiveness, there are so many pieces that have to come into play in order to make it useful in a work environment. It's not just about the usability of the technology, for example. It's about all of the other things that come into play, funders getting it and resourcing appropriately, managers and leadership understanding, having appropriate guidelines, standards, protocols in place, things like that. So really a lot of this comes down to understanding your audience, right? So one of the key questions that agencies need to start asking newcomers is, how do you want to be contacted, right? If we're trying to figure out the right technologies to use in service delivery, we need to be focusing on technologies that clients use. And this isn't a question that clients get asked very often. We do the intake, we ask them for their phone number, maybe a cell phone number, but we don't say what other channels are you using, and then we don't ask the follow-up question is, how would you like to communicate with us? So if you imagine you serve 12,000 clients a year, at the end of three months, you have 3,000 points of data where you could potentially go to a funder or a board member or your leadership and say, listen, we've asked, and 80% of our clients want WhatsApp messaging, 60% want texting, et cetera, et cetera. It gives you the starting point of some really good data and information just by asking a couple of extra questions at the point of intake or surveying your clients and things like that. Because the reality is that newcomers are digital. This is just a smattering of English language online networks and discussion forums where newcomers are present. And as you can see, we're literally talking about hundreds of thousands of newcomers having conversations about immigration and settlement across the country. And most agencies are not in these spaces. Now this is public, so I can now and I can see what people are posting. I can create an account and I can start doing some information and referral services and stuff like that. The trend, however, is towards privacy and closed groups, and this is going to make it much more difficult for us as agencies if clients are talking in private Facebook groups, private WhatsApp groups, et cetera, et cetera. They're not public. We won't be able to reach out to them in the same way. And so it's something that we need to be aware of as a trend in how we connect with client communities in order to gain access to these types of networks. And this is only going to increase with emerging trends like automation and chatbots and artificial intelligence. So for example, in Canada, there are 2 immigration chatbots that are live right now. And increasingly people are looking at apps and mobile approaches as service trends. So in our sector, for example, on the left is a screenshot of a homeless support bot in Toronto called Chalmers, where a group of people did the research, found out that homeless folks, including newcomers in shelters, do have smartphones and have access to public Wi-Fi. And so this is a combination of a chatbot that uses 2-on-1 data to power it in the back end, so the importance of accurate, reliable information, to direct people to free meals, to shelters, and things like that. And the one beside it that says learn all about BC is the Arrival Advisor app made in BC. And once again, this is an iteration, right? It's a combination of 2-on-1 data and the Welcome to BC guide with a different skin on it, if you will. They've made it into a mobile app and a different way for people to access information. In Ontario, the Orientation to Ontario project is playing with a chatbot. So there should be a Facebook chatbot coming out of that project soon that basically walks someone through the curriculum, the materials that are in there. And we see examples in the sector like Costi, like iSands in Nova Scotia, who have taken their services and put them online. So Costi's online services, their online employment services, have been around for 15 years. And we see newer projects as well. I want to give a shout out to Kelly, who's on the webinar here in Windsor, Essex, because the We Value Partnership is a project to streamline the newcomer intake and community referral process in Windsor, Essex. And at first glance, it looks like a tech project because tech is definitely part of the core to make it happen, but it's also about understanding clients better, not just their needs, but the assets they bring to the community, improving their outcomes based on understanding their needs, and then building a more welcoming and responsive community. So technology is a key piece of that project, but it is about client service delivery. So I'm going to go quickly through this because I think Joseph really covered it. Strategy matters because it's not about technology. Everyone in the organization needs to be on the same page. You need to be driving this not on the side of the desk, but in a collaborative approach across the organization. And you've got to make a pitch that starts with people, and that's your workers or your employees and your staff, as well as your clients, then the objectives of what you want to do, the strategy to how to get there, and the technology. In a lot of cases, the technology becomes self-evident based on all of the work you do in those first phases. So when we look at innovation and we look at iteration, there's a big push towards create something completely new, blow our minds with a new app or a new project. And I want you to think, because again, most agencies are at that present and active stage, what are you doing now that you could be doing online? So if you're doing workshops, you could turn those into webinars, or you could record those workshops and have a video archive of all of your orientation sessions for new and existing and future clients. If you're doing one-on-one counseling, you could be messaging, video conferencing, emailing, using a host of other technologies in doing all of this work. If you're running classes like iSands and Costi have done, you can create learning management systems and move those courses online, whether they're self-directed or facilitated. If it feels a little less overwhelming if we start with what we know and what we're doing now and look at what's a virtual equivalent of that. And one way to do that, to start the conversation in agencies, is to think about a new project like a funding ask, right? If I said I have an idea for a new project to somebody, the first thing they would say is, well, what's your needs assessment? How do you know that there's a need? So I've workshopped this with some of my clients, and we've created a quick and dirty 30 to 45-minute process where you can, at the end of it, have a one-page overview of the idea. So it's not, I don't go to my manager and say, I want WhatsApp. I go to my manager and say, okay, I want to use WhatsApp, and here's who I want to use it with. Here's the problem I'm addressing by using WhatsApp and why what I'm doing today is inefficient. Here's the solution, how this solution benefits the client, how I'm going to measure success of this, what resources are needed. So if I don't have phones, maybe I need a smartphone, maybe these are just human resources, but some sort of sense of what the resources are to make it happen. And then importantly, how am I going to ensure that privacy, security, and confidentiality concerns are kept in mind, are in front and center with this. So at the end of this conversation, for managers who are terrified of the whole technology side of things, it gives them a starting point to have the conversation that isn't based in technology, but is based in how you're addressing a problem that that clients are facing and how your solution will benefit those clients. The other thing is, because there are agencies who are on different parts of that digital transformation continuum, we have examples of policies, procedures, frameworks, protocols that we can start sharing. So, there's a few that are listed here that I'm going to give to the Inborg folks to send out as part of the materials, but there's lots we can learn from each other. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I've worked, for example, with a couple of agencies who have taken their policies and then generated social media and technology protocols so that they can actually start doing some of that work by identifying first what is the technology that their staff are using with clients, what technologies do clients want to be using, and then build that into the policy frameworks that they have in their organization. There's also a lot we can learn from others. So social workers in the United States, it's a regulated profession, and they're expected to adhere to ethics and guidelines, and they've created a set of technology guidelines that adhere to those. So we have a huge trove of documentation that that can benefit us and doesn't require us to have to reinvent the wheel, basically. So let's go on to the question phase.
Does anybody online have any questions? The only questions that I received in the chat box was if a copy of this presentation was going to be sent out, and I did confirm that yes, a copy of the recording and the presentation would be sent out. Is there anybody online who has a question that they would like to ask? Okay, so I suppose then in closing, we want to thank you for joining us today. This is our first webinar of the series. We plan to have reoccurring webinars ongoing in the future. I would be very interested in your thoughts about the presentation and potentially topics that you would like to have us address, maybe in further detail or completely different than today's topic. Any feedback with today's webinar is obviously very welcomed as well, to streamline this process and have things continue efficiently and effectively for everybody involved, and also the timing of the call being at 12 o'clock, if that worked for you, if that was a bit of a detriment because it is your lunchtime, those sorts of things. We'd really like to hear back from all of you. Once again, my name is Kate Campbell. I'm the Client Engagement Specialist at Inborg. I want to personally thank you very much for attending. We had a wonderful panel of presentations, and the documents will be available to all of you. If any of you have any further questions after this, or if there is any specific technical questions, I can definitely reach out to those parties with whom those questions should be directed for the appropriate answers. In conclusion today, I just wanted to let you know that you will receive the recordings and the documentation within a week's time, and they will be available on the Inborg website page as well as the social media pages, and directly emailed to all attendees. If anyone has anything else to say, I'm going to conclude my own portion, and I thank you again very much for your time in participating in today's webinar. Joseph,
Hi,
Marco.
Kate. Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. Please feel free to
No,
send
I don't think.
questions.
Thank you, everyone. Well, if you don't mind, if you can type your email address, then they can send any questions to you if they have any, and then you can forward them to either to Marco or myself.
Sure.
Okay, or you can send that where when you send them an email, you can put that email address as well.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending, and have a great rest of the afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.